Today I'm going to be teaching you, yes you, about how to counter all the factions in XDefiant, all of their abilities, gadgets, and ultimates. I do want to quickly say that only a little over 3% of you that watch my videos are subscribed, so if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, it will greatly help me out. But anyways, onto the video. So the first faction we're going to be looking at is the Cleaners faction, or the people that drop firebombs, shoot fire, and light everything on fire. Now in terms of actually ranking the Cleaners faction, I would say it's pretty low in terms of power, but don't get me wrong, the Cleaners passive ability is still super strong, and it's definitely one of the best passives in the game. Now most of the Cleaner's abilities and ultimate require the player to be in a super close radius to the Cleaner. So in terms of the first tip and how to counter anybody using the Cleaner faction is try to keep yourself at range when trying to fight someone as a Cleaner. Now with it being close at range, the Cleaner's firebomb ability and the ultimate are pretty terrible, honestly. You have to be strong or not. I would say it's just right in the middle, where yes, it can do a ton of damage and put down a lot of enemies. It's still decently easy to dodge and get away from. Now, although the Cleaner's passive can see that it's decently strong, but it also gives you a 10% decrease in range. So really, the only thing that can really counter the Cleaners is literally just playing at range. They really can't do a whole lot to you until they close that gap and get super into your face. Now, if you really want to counter the Cleaners, stay away from weapons such as the shotguns and the SMGs, as again, the Cleaners dominate in close range. So if I were you, I would pick up an AR, then slap on the Libertad faction, as the Libertad's passive ability out-heals the damage done by the Cleaners' incendiary shots. Now another faction that excels in countering the Cleaners is the Phantom faction, as the Phantoms start off with 120 HP, meaning most of the time you can survive a fight or even a firebomb. As well, the Phantom's shield can also block the fire drone and the firebomb. So hopefully these tips make it a little bit easier to play against the Cleaner faction. Now moving into arguably the strongest faction, we're going to be looking at the DedSec faction. Now we all know just how strong that spider bot really is. There's tons of ways to counter it and to pretty much just avoid it in general. Most of you should know by now. I also have multiple shorts on this, but if the spider bot latches onto you, a quick and easy way to destroy it is simply by looking down while it's attached and shooting. This in turn ends up breaking the spider bot, and you really don't have to worry about it. Another super easy way to break it that a lot of people skip or miss out on is if you see a teammate with a spider bot attached to them and you feel a little bit sorry, go ahead and you can shoot the spider off of their head. Now this is a super easy and helpful way to get rid of those stupid spiders and to help out your team. Now there is a third way to destroy the spider bot, but it can be super finicky at some points. Right before the spider bot jumps onto your head, or pretty much you see the split second of it doing the jumping animation, if timed correctly, you can melee the spider bot and destroy it. Now I really only been able to do this one time and record it, however the footage of me actually hitting it ended up getting corrupted. But take my word, if timed correctly, you can definitely destroy the spider drone while meleeing. Now usually if the DedSec player that threw the spider bot is decently good, when they throw the spider bot they'll end up chasing it around, hoping to get that free kill. Now a way to try and counter the DedSec class is by getting rid of that spider bot as quickly as possible, then pretty much pre-aiming where that spider bot came from. This will hopefully result in you getting an early jump or even a free kill on the player that threw the spider bot. Now in terms of actually destroying the spider bot when you look down and shoot, if you're using weapons such as a sniper or you're at the end of your magazine and only have about 2 bullets left, well you're pretty much out of luck. For some reason, when using the snipers and trying to destroy the spider bot, it could be pretty inconsistent at some points and it doesn't always destroy it. As well, if you run out of ammo while trying to destroy the spider bot and haven't destroyed it already, unfortunately you can't reload while the spider bot is latched onto you. So again, there, unless you have a teammate, you're pretty much out of luck. Now when it comes to the DedSec's ultimate, most of you should also know by now that it only lasts 1 life. So the second someone uses the DedSec ultimate, if you really don't care about your KD or anything, you could just blow yourself up with a nade. There, you don't have to worry about the DedSec ultimate again. Now another fact that a lot of people miss out on is that when you actually use the DedSec ultimate, there's going to be white lines that appear. These white lines are actually enemy players on the map, and it pretty much acts as a second type of wall hack. So keep that in mind when you pop the DedSec ultimate or someone on the other team pops it. These are pretty free chances to get a whole bunch of killing straight into the Phantom faction. Off the rip, a super easy way to counter the Phantom's ultimate is actually the Cleaners faction and pretty much the entire Cleaners kit. Now if you're playing as the Cleaners faction and you actually see a Phantom's ultimate, your whole job is to run full speed at that bubble and drop a firebomb inside of that ultimate as quickly as possible. Even if you end up dying in the process, but you still manage to get the firebomb off, the Phantom that is using the ultimate will pretty much end up dying purely for the fact that the amount of damage the firebomb does and that the Phantom faction is super slow when using the ultimate. Now another way to get rid of the bubble shield or the Phantom's ultimate is simply by throwing a Semtex onto the bubble. Now pretty much the bubble stops all projectile damage, however if you throw a Semtex onto the bubble, it will still end up carrying the damage through to the inside of the bubble. Things like frag grenades will simply bounce off of it, same with EMPs and stuns. But throw a Semtex onto the bubble and you're good to go. Now a lot of people when they see the Phantom's barrier get pretty scared, and it's actually super easy to destroy. It takes about 1 mag of an entire AR or a couple mags of an SMG and about 1 mag of a LMG. Now I'm not saying this is the easiest or safest way to get rid of the barrier from the Phantom's class, but it's definitely an alternative if you don't want to put on the EMP grenades. But a player with the right shield running at you full speed, throw an EMP grenade. Now in terms of the other Phantom ability, the right shield or the blitz shield, however you want to call it, as not many players use it, it's pretty easy to counter, either by shooting them in the feet or shooting them at the top of the right shield. There's a little glass hole that you can shoot through, or well, throw an EMP grenade at it. As well, when they're using the blitz shield, they're going to be slower than the average player, so it's pretty easy to get around them or even straight up just run away from them. Now moving on to probably one of the hardest factions to counter, the Echelon faction. So the Intel suit is by far one of the strongest and best abilities in the game, as it acts as a radar for yourself and for your team within the same area. Now there's a couple ways to counter the Intel suit. One way is the Phantom's shield or the Phantom's barrier, however you want to say it. If you place down a barrier, the Echelon's Intel suit will pick up the barrier rather than the player behind it. So you can use that as a way to bait the Intel suit user in or to just straight up hide from the player. Now another way to counter the Intel suit, and again like most things in this game, is going to be the EMP grenade. The EMP grenade will pretty much stop you from using the Intel suit, just like most gadgets in the game, so I highly encourage you to run around with the EMP grenade. The rest of the Echelon kit, both the ulti and the cloaking device, are way easier to counter than the Intel suit. Now honestly, the best way to counter the cloaking device is really just using your eyes. It's pretty easy to see someone running around invis, however if the player is standing still with the cloaking device activated, it's going to be way harder to see them. Now another way to counter the cloaking device is by also opening up your ears. There's an audio cue when entering and exiting the suit, which are both pretty loud. As well, there's also an audible voice line that you can also hear. Now when it comes to the Echelon's ultimate or the 5-7 with the thermal optics, it could be pretty challenging at some points to really counter it. Of course, some super easy ways to counter it is by using the DedSec's ultimate, or does a map EMP and pretty much removes all the enemy players' ultimates and abilities. As I said in past videos, I highly encourage you, if you're playing the DedSec class, to really save your ultimate, as it's better to save it and wait for an enemy ultimate than just popping it whenever you want to. Now some other ways to counter it is by using the Phantom shield, where it pretty much blocks all of the bullets. Now some of you may ask, can you use an EMP grenade or a flashbang on the Echelon ulti? Sadly, the answer is no. The EMP only affects gadgets, the map, and grenades and whatnot. And in terms of using the flashbang on the Echelon person ulting, the Echelon user will still get that bright flash, however they can still see the outlined boxes of the enemy players. Or to go against the Echelon ultimate, you can take on the theory of he can't kill all of us, and tell all your teammates to group up and run at them. Maybe you'll counter him, maybe you won't. Now the last faction as of right now is the Libertad faction, or the faction that gets to heal and use the inhaler whenever they want to. Now I would say that the Libertad faction is definitely among the strongest factions. I would definitely rank it in about the top 3. Now in terms of actually countering this character, it's actually pretty difficult to counter the Libertad faction. However, if the Libertad faction player is using the healing backpack, or whatever it's called, the thing that you throw out to heal, there's a couple of ways to destroy it. Simply by shooting it, throwing a nade, throwing an EMP, or if you're a Chad and playing the DedSec with the hijack ability, you can hijack the Libertad's backpack and steal it for yourself. Now when it comes to the Libertad actually ulting, that player is actually sitting inside of the ultimate like they're supposed to do. It's nearly impossible to deal with it or counter them inside of their ultimate. You can actually kill them inside of their ultimate, however it's just a little more difficult. Now there's some guns that can actually kill them inside their ultimate, but most of these guns are going to require no missing and all headshots. You can get away with this pretty much with all the SMGs, ARs, and LMGs, but again you have to hit all headshots without missing. Some more ways to counter it is if you're using the Echelon faction, you can 2-tap someone inside of the healing ultimate, or if you're using the Phantom ultimate, the bubble shield with the shotgun, you can 1-tap the player inside of the healing ultimate, and that's pretty much everything that can really counter it. Unfortunately, the DedSec doesn't stop the healing aura, as even though the healing ultimate is a deployable, as there's no object that's really connected to the ultimate to allow it to be countered. But who knows, maybe they change this in the future. But that's pretty much going to do it for the video. I want to quickly say again, if you're new here and haven't already, please do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, as it greatly helps me out. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.